I've mentioned quite a few times that our goal with classics was to get to all the Princess of Power figures, at least all the original characters, and especially the ones in that opening shot. Because, well, this means a lot to fans, and that, fans really have connected with that show, unlike New Adventures. And two of the more popular characters, Glimmer and Angela, were definitely on our radar, even though they were released years apart. Now, Angela has a bit of a trick in the fact that her vintage toy didn't exactly match her animated version. While there was a blonde version released in Venezuela, the US and Europe version all had brunette hair. So coming out with an Angela that was blonde was because we were tying her directly to the Filmation version as opposed to the original doll. Eventually we might have gotten to the dolls, that was kind of a thought. And even doing, different heads and different dresses so you could do both versions with one figure is something that was discussed. But again, we really did talk about the idea of eventually releasing the doll versions, so it made sense to go with Filmation now that we had the rights. Of course, there's also people who wanted kind of a 2000X version of all the Princess of Power characters, but yeah, that was a whole other toy line too. Would have been great to get to that. I mean, honestly, anytime you can reinvent the characters and resell all of the main ones, you're styling. Okay, so back to Angela and Glimmer, daughter and mother over Kingdom of Brightmoon, two of the major characters from the animated series. But it took a while to get to both of them in the line, in classics that is, and that was deliberate because we wanted to spread out the major characters. Also, we had to wait till we had wings for Angela because, Angella. I keep calling her Angela. That's my friend from high school. So, in addition to the wings, she had, of course, her halo, which is very reminiscent of medieval art because that was how they drew halos back then. But as I mentioned, we needed the wings, and those came from DC Universe Classics. I remember when the Horsemen sculpted the wings for Hawkman, they made us promise to never make them sculpt wings again because they took forever, which of course we then reused them for multiple figures, including multiple Masters of the Universe Classics characters like Voltac here, who also used the wings that originated in DCU Classics. We could do that because Mattel owned, or at least had the toy rights for MOTUC, as opposed to owning DC. So things like the Angel wing can't be shared with DC, but DC's wings could be shared with Masters of the Universe. Kind of see how that works? I know, it's a little confusing, but basically, if a part is generic enough that's not tied like feather wings, we can kind of get a loophole in that rule. And we're able to use wings developed for a DC line in a Masters of the Universe one. It's very rare to be able to do that, but Warner Brothers, we basically went to them and said, look, these are generic wings. We need to be able to reuse them because the Horsemen are going to kill us if we make them resculpt wings. So we got permission from Warner Brothers. We had to go to them and ask permission since the wings were technically a DC part originating with Hawkgirl and Hawkman. All right. So back to Angela, of course, we wanted to arm her up with a sword, not necessarily She-Ra's sword, but another sword that she used from the show, and giving her a proper bio and extending her royal name and, connecting to all of the POP Filmation continuity as best we could, and again, giving her that sort of generic POP sword, but she steps right out of the animated series, but in classics. Look, it's not meant to be an animated version like again, Club Grayskull did years later. Some fans wanted to see, a bit more of a, thought it maybe was too animated, not enough detail, but honestly, I think the consistency the Horsemen did was fantastic. And if you look at the Club Grayskull figures that are in animated style, you can see there is a difference. So, yeah, she came out great and completed the opening moment, which is always something huge with fans, to be able to, recreate in toy form an animated moment.